With the release of their newest album Angel, UNPROCESSED has dropped some of the best songs I've heard in a while, and dare I say, this is my favourite album from them yet. But out of all of those amazing songs, this is my favourite. Today we will be remaking Sacrifice Me. Before we jump into it, let's talk about the arrangement of this song. As you can see, even though it looks complicated, this whole song can be broken down into its four main parts. That being the drums, the bass, the guitars, and the pads. It's your basic structure for arrangement, just executed very well to give you that insane power in the mix. With that being said, if you are an all-in-one producer, meaning that you do your songs through the whole music production pipeline, if your parts are written extremely well, as it is, you'll find that the song actually just mixes itself, and all you're doing is just bringing the qualities out such that each part of the mix can shine. Every part of this mix has its own place, and nothing is more complicated than it needs to be. Now let's jump into the intro. Alright, so as I said before, your four simple layers of the arrangement. You have your drums over here, which are your standard 808 kicks, your bass, which is a Reese bass from Serum. I'm using Farlight for my pads. That's what it sounds like. Yep. And the infamous intro, the guitar tapping. Please pardon my guitar playing. I am not nearly as good of a guitar player as MGF. Essentially, it's artificial harmonics, just that instead of plucking the strings, you're tapping them where the harmonics are. And what you get is a very glassy kind of sound, but it's incredibly difficult to pull off properly. The way that they did it in the studio, I'm not super sure, but if you listen to their live recordings, I'm gonna put one up here. You realize that they're using an octaver to kind of assist them in this textural kind of sense. But yeah, it's not easy, and I'm not very sure how they were able to pull it off so cleanly in the studio recording. But here's my best try. I'm using the Mixwave MGF plugin. Here are the settings. Clean with a bit of gain, some EQ. Here's some the cap settings, the reverb. The reverb on this is very nice. It's quite instrumental to the tone, as it provides this atmospheric texture to the guitars that you wouldn't otherwise get in anything else. I'm using a bunch of output compression just to get things to be even. If not, it sounds very jagged and uneven. Yeah, here's my try of it, and here are the harmonics. Well, they do sell tabs on their website, but you realize that the tabs aren't super accurate to the studio recording. Perhaps that's what they play live, but in the studio recording, nah. It's mostly natural harmonics, but some artificial harmonics. And you realize that there's a lot of noise in the recording because I had to use a lot of compression to get that sound, that compressed sound out of the guitar that almost sounds like a synth in the mix, but it's guitar harmonics. Throughout this whole section, actually throughout the whole song, I'm using a lot of compression, really boosts the power of all the tracks. So the compression actually just gives everything enough power to cut through the mix. And sometimes you use it to just give space to other elements in the mix, and in this case I'm using it as a timbre tool, using pitch correction because my guitar isn't very well set up, so all the harmonics aren't perfectly in tune. Compression, EQ, yeah, normal stuff, taking away quite a lot of these frequencies due to how much of it is being taken up by these components up here. So I just need this much, a bit of high end and cutting out the sibilant frequencies. And my MVP plugin of the whole mix, the Magma Stressbox. You'll be seeing a lot of this. When the vocals come in, I have this plugged synth. Yep, and that just supports the guitar tapping, which is now like fallen into the background a bit. And I achieve this by using the warp pedal on this. Looks something like that. You might have heard that there's this ducking effect going on, and that's the sidechain compression coming from the kick. Yeah, very heavily distorted. That really just gives it this like punch for the kick to come through, and it gives it this kind of like electronic music kind of texture, which I feel like Unprocessed has been going towards recently. If you listen to their tracks in this album, that's about it. Moving on to the chorus, same thing. Your basic few arrangement layers. You've got your drums up here, which are written very well, and they, in my opinion, carry the whole track. You have your pads here, your bass. No, this is not the bass. This is the bass, right? And this is something else I'll talk about later. Right, let's listen to the bass. When it comes to metal mixing, many mix engineers like to separate their bass into two different tracks, and that is the distorted tone and the sub bass. The reason being is that when you are mixing bass as one track, it's very hard to pin down and really accentuate and make full use of all the frequencies that are found in distorted bass. So when you split this into two, it makes it much easier for yourself as a mix engineer to handle the frequencies. Like this huge bass shelf and they're cutting out everything else, so it sounds like this. And this is the distortion. So you put it together, it sounds like one big fat bass guitar tone. You have to go through things like this to make it such that the whole frequency spectrum is treated properly. I'm using Parallax for both. Technically, you are able to do what I just said through Parallax, but I find it much easier to just split it into two. For the bass itself, I'm using a session bassist from Contact. Yeah, it's not very good, but gets the job done, I guess. Guitars, same MGF plugin. This is what it looks like. Yeah, nothing much. Biggest thing is the 1 octave transposition that it's doing to give it this sound. So you really need to manage your frequencies very well when you are dealing with guitars this low. Here's the EQ. I'm cutting things from like 300 onwards. Just doing these like slight adjustments here so that it sits well with the bass guitar and the drums as well. So one trick that they like to use, or I hear in their tracks, is them using synth patches to supplement or support the guitar tone such that it sounds like this big fat entity. Let's see what it sounds like. So when you think about guitar tone, especially in this track, you're actually listening to this, plus this, plus this, all into one that creates this illusion of guitar tone, when in fact your guitars kind of just sound a bit underwhelming by itself. These are your pads, normal stuff. The chord progressions are basically the same. I'm not going to go through them too much. And here are the drums. For the drums, I'm using Get Good Drums Metal One Kit Wonder. They're supposed to be out of the box mix ready, but I think that in order for them to shine the most, you need to add some post-processing to them. You can search this out on YouTube. There are a bunch of tutorials online on how you are able to split your singular drum plugin into these many channels such that you can mix them individually. Let's just look at the kick and snare for now. I'm using distortion and a bit of a bass shelf to give it that power that it needs to cut through the mix. And again, Magma Stressbox, a bunch of compression. Let's listen to it. Yeah, it's really powerful, like it's like banging into your head. Let's hear it without all these. Yeah, sounds much thinner. Here's a snare. Same audio. Here the overhead, same thing, compression. Yeah, and the de-esser cost of this particular plugin is quite sibilant when it comes to especially the hi-hats. So I added that there. And then in the master drum chain, I have two compressors. Actually, yeah, one compressor, one limiter, and one clipper. Yeah, this is just to tame the frequencies because you're boosting them so much in the tracks themselves that you have to kind of tame them down. So you get like, it looks just like a block of sound if you look at the waveform itself, but it works for this kind of mixing. So here's what the drums sound like. Now, let's listen to everything together. It's really this like punch in your face kind of guitar tone, but as I said before, it's a bunch of different things. Let's go to the post-chorus. This part is, in my opinion, the most complicated part in the whole track due to this. The bass stays the same. This is the same as before, where you're using synth patches to support the guitar tone. In this case, more of like the bass tone or like the harmonic structure. If you listen to the track itself, even though it sounds like, and the tabs will tell you that it's just guitars doing the riff, yeah, it's not possible, man. You're gonna hear like natural harmonics and pressed notes at the same time, and you're gonna hear like spurts of like saw waves and in there. Let's just listen to what this whole thing sounds like. You need these like ear candy moments to really bring out the flavor, guitar riff, and like the writing. Yeah, it's just something that you might miss when you are listening just to the track. That's actually it. You have your guitar, your bass, this, which is like let's listen to everything, and then I just mute this and unmute it to hear the difference. Adds this little extra sprinkle on top. The second verse, more or less the same thing as the intro, just with drums this time. Yeah, chorus, same thing again. Now, post-chorus, you have your drums, your bass, and your guitars. If you listen very, very closely, you can actually hear this in the mix. Yeah, and that goes together with the guitars. That's about it for this section. Same thing, distortion, OTT, bunch of compression, Magma Stressbox again. Yeah, here's this part, my favorite. When you look at MGF's guitar tone, or like unprocessed guitar tone in general, you'll realize that all of them use this picking technique that goes kiao kiao kiao. I searched everywhere to figure out how to do this. Turns out, in an interview, I'll try and find it and put it here, he says something about it being due to the power from his pickups. Yeah, it kind of looks like he just kind of stumbled upon this technique. Let's listen to it. So how do I get it? How do I get that tone? I present to you. So I thought, if my guitar pickups have to be even hotter, what can I do to emulate that? OTT with the highs cranked going into the amp sim. Sacrilegious as hell, but yeah, it kind of works actually. Let's listen to it in result, yeah. That's just a little trick for you. The rest, bass is bass. You got your pads swelling using a mod wheel, drums being drums, and yeah. Going to the bridge now. Very similar to the intro, just that you're back to the Reese bass. Guitar tapping is the same, the plugs are the same, harmonics are the same. But yeah, this amazing drum writing here. Yep, that's about it. Third chorus, I have this guitar, which is tapped, the lead guitar tone. Yeah, going into some reverb and some EQ. But I have this frequency boost here that looks incredibly drastic. But even though it sounds terrible by itself, it really is very like harsh on the ear, right? But this is what it needs to cut through such a thick mix. When your other guitars are playing this, yeah, you need something that really pierces through, where these don't really have a presence in the frequency spectrum, where they don't really have a presence in. So I just boost this to fit it in right in that pocket, such that it sounds like one. We have this same thing, having a saw patch to really fill out that frequency spectrum as much as possible, such that this part of the song really hits. Yeah, big difference, right? You kind of like, you don't notice it until you mute it and you realize that something is very, very, very much missing. Here are my pads. Same. It's just really, really good writing in general, and some of these mixing tricks and like good handling of your frequencies, like cleaning up things where they should, taming your dynamics as well using your compressors, Magma Stressbox, and finding places to slot things in using the frequency spectrum, not boosting things just by volume. If not, you're gonna end up with a very muddy and cluttered mix, even though like by themselves they might not sound great. Okay, that's about it, guys. Let me know if you'd like to see something else related to this. Maybe I'll do something for another song. Stick around to listen to the whole remake that I try my best on, and I'm still new to this kind of thing, and yeah, I'm nowhere near a professional. So if you have any feedback for me, please do leave it in the comments below, and I'll take my time to read all of them and really like learn as I go. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll hopefully see you around again. Bye.